to write a grand strategy, that it was now our destiny, that without the Soviet Union, there is no one who can possibly approach us in military terms. It says that's the way it ought to be, and our policy must be to maintain and expand that we are the new Rome. That's their strategy. On 9/11, they begin to implement it.
It's not just simply a matter of capturing people and holding them accountable, but removing the sanctuaries, removing the support systems, ending states who sponsor terrorism.
The people who came in with the president, or many of them anyway, were certainly prepared to shift direction, and in a radical direction. I think it's fair to say radical.
When September 11th happened, the president and his top advisors said to themselves, correctly I think, we need to rethink American foreign policy. And I think that would have happened even without September 11th. But September 11th was really the event that changed American foreign policy.
Well, I was in the Pentagon when we got hit. You know, yes, it did change. It was a very dramatic and terrible thing. And it does change your perspective. But the war in Iraq had nothing to do with the war on terrorism. That was a huge leap, a manufactured leap, in order to implement a very calculated and pre-developed foreign policy.
We must take the battle to the enemy, disrupt his plans, and confront the worst threats before they emerge.
The Bush doctrine is that preemptive strikes or preemptive conflicts, which were never contemplated in the past, now have to be contemplated under certain scenarios.
If you saw a missile about to be launched and you could kick it over before it could be launched, you'd do it, of course. If you saw someone about to shoot at you and you thought you could shoot first, you'd do it. It's common sense. I don't know anybody who doesn't agree with that. So what's the big fuss about preemption?
March 19th is a night I will never forget. March 19th is one for the history books. It's one for my personal history books. When we first got the phone call, all we were told was we have a high priority mission, a high value target. It was what it was released to us it was a leadership target.
The F-117 is an extraordinary machine, and it is only ordered forward on the order of the President or the Secretary of Defense.
First night of the conflict, the 117 pilots were fully trained. All they had to do was be briefed, have the weapons put on.
The whole mission up to this point was kept at the top secret levels. I think they really didn't expect both of us to come back, which is why they sent 2 jets. It's now 3:30. We have to hit the target at 5:30 or all bets are off. The President of the United States saw a target of opportunity, and they wanted to take advantage of it, and they did.
It's quite chilly and cold. I'm looking southward, expecting any attack to come in from the south. The choice and the timing is entirely now in the hands of the Allies.
The Bush Doctrine is certainly not something unprecedented, unknown in American life. This statement that we are going to dominate the world through military power, that we reserve to ourselves the right of preemptive war. It is an extreme statement of what has been there in the works for a long time. World War II is, without question, the formation of the American military empire.
General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Commander-in-Chief, Allied Expeditionary Force.
I have complete confidence that the soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the United Nations will demonstrate that an aroused democracy is the most formidable fighting machine that can be devised.
Eisenhower was there and saw it happening. He had seen the buildup of the American military to fight World War II.
In this war, more than any other in history, we are on the side of decency and democracy and liberty.
He believed very deeply in the necessity for World War II and felt that Nazism was a terrible tyranny. And he brought this conviction and drive to defeating Nazi Germany.
People waited for this moment, the culminating victory, the end of the war.
We were on top of the world. We were the only unwrecked major power on Earth. Europe was bleeding to death. Japan was gone. Those paper cities had all been burned up. So what are we doing?
At 2:45 in the morning, August 6, 1945, Colonel Tibbets takes the Enola Gay.
It is an atomic bomb. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe.
The United States bombed the Japanese city of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, and 3 days later they detonated another atomic bomb on the city of Nagasaki.
What has been done is the greatest achievement of organized science in history.
I can remember in the Pacific when the word spread that the bombs had been dropped. 99.9% of us were delighted because we'd been convinced that if Japan was not hit by nuclear weapons, 1 million of us would be killed. Drop those bombs and they will surrender. Well, they were trying to surrender all that summer, but Truman wouldn't listen because Truman wanted to drop the bombs, to show off, to frighten Stalin, to change the balance of power in the world, to declare war on communism. Perhaps we were starting a preemptive world war. Eisenhower hated the dropping of them and thought it should not have been done.
We just thought war was terrible enough as it was. I cannot trace evolution in my dad's thinking. He was complex. He was a 5-star general, but he was never a military fanatic. Never. One night in July of 45, that day, the Secretary of War had told my father about the development of the atomic weapon, atomic bomb. We were sitting up in his bedroom, and he said that his own first impression, his own emotion had been to be feeling down low. He wished we hadn't invented it.
In the background was the growing conflict between two great powers to shape the post-war world. Already an iron curtain had dropped around Poland, Hungary, Yugoslavia.
You see, we had to fight communism wherever it was in the world. So a decision was made that the United States remain militarized permanently.
We lack the weapons to defend ourselves. Build, prepare is the cry. Quickly the government springs into action and initiates a gigantic rearmament program. A program designed to make America the arsenal of democracy.
From that moment on, the American empire was in every corner of the earth.
In Burma and Iceland,
we were going to maintain dominance, not just of Europe, and not just of Japan, but of the entire globe.
Oh, gee, I wish that I could be with you tonight. Gee, I wish. Oh. And gee, I know that everything will be alright. Be alright. The crickets are singing a love song.
What are we fighting for?
Fighting for continued freedom. That's the only way we're going to have it, I think.
Why do we fight? I think that I honestly don't have an answer for it.
It's the people who start the war who know what they're fighting about.
I think we fight for ideals and what we believe in, so I hope that's what it is.
Today, we don't have a broad-based American feeling about why we're fighting in Iraq. People's confidence in the United States is not what it was 15 years ago. It's not what it was during World War II.
Yesterday, USA. Precious celluloid, such as the Why We Fight orientation films, familiarizing our soldiers.
You know, it's interesting, Why We Fight was actually the title of a series of World War II films that were done by one of the great directors.
Master of the art of motion picture entertainment, Frank Capra.
The Frank Capra films, even back then, were propaganda to kind of build up a war fever.
Americans fighting.
But given that it was during a global world war, there were a lot of reasons that Americans embraced.
the love
We're fighting for